Yes, you're gonna have people turn their backs, but it's time for us to keep it real. Just keep talking that real, bro. Do what you do. I know what you do, so keep doing that. Talk the real.
The HBI lads will see you now. See you now. See you now.
I don't want to cause no problems. I just want to live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense.
To expand the clinic a little bit, I'm going to max out with probably 3 practitioners, but I'm starting to push money aside for long-term investment so that I don't always have to be on the tools, right? Like, I love doing what we do, but it's that classic, make money while you sleep idea that we all need to be looking at, not looking at, yay, now I'm selling some kind of network marketing product, because that's still time for money. So yeah, that's where, stock market, crypto, who knows? I'm sure there's a million and one things. That's the stuff I'm trying, Kickstarters, that's the stuff I'm starting to have a bit of a gander at, because I feel like that's what's going to give us the long-term run, right?
Absolutely, bro. Daniel, what's your email address? I'll plug it in right now.
Info.
Yeah.
That's
dr.danielcopro.com. All right, gotcha. Nathan, do you want it?
Yeah, sure, man.
What's yours, bro?
Surely you want one. Just go Dr. Nathan at northfremantle.chiropractic.com.au.
North Fremantle.
Surely you need to make that NFC.
What's that? Oof.
Oh no,
damn,
he's hit a bad reception.
You hit a bad patch, mate.
NFC. Hello?
Am
I good now? Or?
you back in?
Is that
What'd you say?
I'm back? Oh, I said, surely you've got to shorten your email to NFC just to make your life easy.
I do, but I already I locked it to the website and I don't understand this shit, and I've got to get someone to do it.
Yeah, you just get a second domain. I did the same thing. I made mine WLOP, which was, and then when people type in that, it refers them to my website. So I don't have to make my email links and else the other folders.
I've got multi-domains. I might have to have a look whether that's available, just because honestly, trying to explain it to people is an absolute nightmare at times.
Yeah. All right. One more time. Dr. Nathan at northfremantle.chiropractic.com.au.
That's the one.
Not Nathan Bridge, or just Dr. Nathan?
Just Dr. Dr. Nathan. So not Doctor. Yeah. And
you couldn't have the surname in there as well.
That would be a fucking nightmare.
It's 50 characters long.
Honestly, it's one of those ones that, in retrospect, it's on my list of things to address, but it's not high on the list of things to address.
Yeah, there's a priority for everything, absolutely. But back on what you said before, the vision for what I want to do is not franchise the business, get as many brick and mortar places as you can, more and more physios. I'm like, man, I said, that's a very, in my eyes, if that's your passion, then go for it. But for me, it's very simplistic. I'm like, I want to make sure, I've got, 5 practitioners with an elite space, and then, foster that and facilitate that and make everyone the best physios in Australia. And then I'm building, I'm investing into the crypto space. I want to head down some e-commerce routes, obviously education and courses. For me, it's not get more and more practitioners. It's actually, how else can I make money? And then the investments in crypto, stocks, whatever you want to be in, precious metals, that shit just does its thing. You get your cash flow from your business, because the secret is having good cash flow. Therefore, you can keep injecting it at different places. As long as you got enough money for your personal expenses and business expenses, basically, I have zero savings. It's all invested elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend reading that email.
I'll have a gander. Yeah, it's the next phase for me. Obviously, we're looking at property for next year. Looking both personal and business property, and then we'll sort of expand out from there.
Yeah, bro. It's interesting. This is, depends what you listen to. I listen to a lot of the main information I consume now is not health related. It's legit crypto and finance related. So there's a lot of there's a lot of hype around the Aussie property market, basically banks and superannuation funds, etc., are heavily invested in the property in Australia.
Yeah.
So it is protected. It doesn't drop. It just actually keeps appreciating over the years. If you look at the average wage of an Aussie hasn't increased for over a decade, yet housing prices of like I've got a graph. It's legit going.
Yeah, I think I've seen it before.
It
goes back to that old school argument, right, about how our like parents' generation or their parents' generation, their wage may have been a lot smaller, but their ability to buy property was a lot higher, right?
Yeah, I'll get it right now. It's scary.
Crazy old thing. Because that's why, like, for me, I'm looking to buy to live in, and I'm looking to buy the office that my clinic is in. So I just pay off for using a rent system, right?
Yeah,
not so much definitely not looking at commercial property for an investment. That seems like a very poor game to play at the moment.
Absolutely, because...
Are you just leasing your clinic there?
What's that?
Oh, are you just leasing your clinic at the moment?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just passing things around. Yeah, I'm just leasing at the moment, but I have the option to buy, and they're very keen on it.
What's that? Set you back.
Don't do it.
At the moment, bugger up, at 15K a year.
Wow, fucking that's nothing. We have the exact same space, and mine's 25.
Yeah. I got a good deal, and that mine includes outgoings, except for like electricity. So and plus VSD. Yeah, because they're just very keen to move it on, and they had it sitting empty for like 2 years, and they were just like, you know what? Because I remember the guy's like, I want to talk rent-free period, and he's like, do you want to talk about the rent? I was like, no, the rent's fine, bro.
Yeah.
That is A-okay.
Well, I just lease 2 rooms, one at the gym and then one at doctor's clinic, and that together they're like 35 grand a year. But they got 2 in-house gyms as well, which is fantastic. But
that's the challenge, right?
Yeah.
Like that other clinic that I did have, I was paying like 75 a day, and we were just discussing a weekly rate. But one of the questions I had for them was like, how does this look for future expansion? So we've talked about putting multiple practitioners on. I'm not going to pay another $350, $400 a week per practitioner I put in there. Not when I've already got the space and a bigger space and I'm paying far less. Like that is, I'm assuming Dan's just dropped video because he wants to maintain thing, but that is the ever-present issue with, like expansion, right? Like every time you take on a new space, there's a new overhead. And
Overheads.
That's like staff, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. But
staff is one of your biggest assets, but it can be your biggest weakness because it can be such an overhead. I mean,
yeah, I'm there at the moment because I've just put on a new physio and I've pushed everyone to employees, plus a pretty sweet commission sort of set up as well. But
which is what you got to do these days, because it's like that's safe, right? Like, is your industry having the same issue as ours? Like, because everyone in our industries was always on a contractor. They then moved that to try and make it, I'm air quoting this for anyone listening at home, more legal. And they moved it to like a facility lease agreement, which was just a contractor's agreement wrapped up like you're hiring the room off them.
Yeah, you're just leasing the space.
But you're not actually getting any of the benefits that someone who would just lease the space is getting, right? You're handing over all your percentage and that. But
that's what I was on when I was working.
Yeah. I've been on.
No entitlements. It was just, I was on like, but new grade, I was on like a 37.5% commission, but no entitlements, no super. So I'm pretty sure what they're doing was illegal. And the company who bought the company I worked for are huge. I'm not going to drop their name because I've already run into some legal trouble with them early days of Humphreys Health. So I'm not going to even try to do that. Yeah.
No.
Back to what I was saying before about the wages and the housing growth. Legit, like back in the 80s, right? The average wage of people in Australia hasn't increased like comparative to what the dollar is worth since the 1980s, really. Whereas you got housing prices have gone back then, right, from like less than the person's wage to actually now sitting at close to a for some properties, especially down in Melbourne, Sydney, sorry, almost like a 10 times.
Yeah.
Right. That's why the housing prices are over like $1 million, and still most people are still under 100K. Whereas back in our parents' generation, you might have still turned over, I don't know, 40, 50K. It says the average wage back then was maybe 60K or something. But, oh no, I'm getting this graph all wrong. Not even, it would have been
Crossing
like
his X's and Y's here. Look it out.
Well, I'm colorblind. It's all color coded.
Yeah, that's going to fuck your shit up right there.
But the percentages, I think, here we go. I think wages have had a 3% growth over the last like 30 years, whereas housing prices have pushed.
That's adjusting for inflation, isn't it?
Yeah, legit. And then housing prices have gone up a huge amount in comparison to that.
No. And that's
I don't know if you can see this graph. That's the graph there, right? So the blue and the green is the Sydney and Melbourne housing prices. Yeah. And then the wages are the light blue at the bottom. And you can see that.
Just so you know, the light blue is actually pink.
Yeah, okay, the pink. But that's the graph. I'll send it to you.
There is that. It's so funny you say that, because I was literally just listening to a Rogan podcast with the dude who's talking about like screen addiction, stuff like that, but that came out on it. He was colorblind and he was talking about the shades. Yeah. And then we just had our incident right here with Mr. B. Humphries, because apparently colorblindness is about 10% of men. It's really like 1% of women and 10% of men. And
it's pretty common.
Hot take for you, your future child, it may be a masculine child, not assuming that the other half is pregnant here. Before anyone jumps the guns here, I'm just making a future reference. For old Benny's like, what? But your child has any boy you have has a 50% chance of having colorblindness.
Yeah.
It's a dominant trait passed on by you. You piece of shit.
My pop, who had 3 daughters,
yeah.
the 3, like just my mum and her 2 sisters, none of them are colorblind, but each one of my aunties, so one of my cousins is colorblind, 2 males from the other family are colorblind, and then I'm colorblind. Yeah. So 4 of the 8 male grandsons are colorblind.
Women are a lot more protected.
People are like, oh, what do you see? I'm like, well, if I had something to compare it to, it would be a lot easier to describe.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, what you see, like I was explaining it, it's not like people think of black and white, right? Because you have obviously those, is it the cones or the rods, where you have your yellow, green, blue, red, whatever it is. You have those primary colours and the secondaries, and it tends to be, I think the guy was saying the most common one is like blue-green colour blindness. So red-green, that's it. And so you still pick up most of the shades of blue, which is why you thought that pink was light blue, and stuff like that. But you won't. And it's like those dot plots. Did they ever make you do the dot plots?
Yeah, in biology at school.
Yeah.
And then
those are like super interesting though. Yeah.
Is that actually pink before, or were you taking the piss?
No, that was. I saw
green. I saw green as well.
No, it's the one down the bottom is light.
I messaged it to both
not the top one.
It's hard to see.
The little one. The little one.
Maybe I'm colorblind as well.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here first. Yeah, that is definitely pink. It is 100% pink. The little one down there. The little round.
I thought you were the one next to it. I was like, I'm so
No. Then we've got problems. But those dot plots, right? You know the ones everyone's done in biology class for colorblindness. Yeah. Do you know what's really cool about them? Here's a random offshoot that is completely irrelevant for the HBI podcast, but they're actually designed so you can't fake them, right? Because being colorblind used to be a way to get out of military service and stuff like that. So if you're colorblind, you just see a different number. You don't not see a number. So if you have normal vision, you see one number. And if you're colorblind, you see another number. And if people used to be like, I don't see anything, we know they're lying to try and get out of something.
Like a screening. That's fucking smart.
How genius is that? The ability to use lightly colored dots to create that.
to fucking filter out the liars, the lie detector,
No.
as well as the colorblind test. Well,
Well,
I didn't know that was two. But
No.
there's to me always as a party trick. If it comes up, she'll like there's a colorblind test that you can do online. Has all this. It's just a digital version, and then you just choose the numbers, and people just watch me do it, and I get usually like maybe 60-70% right, but I'll stop on one. I'm like, I said, there is no number in this thing. And everyone's just like, oh, whoa, what the heck? I'm like, I actually can't see it.
Right. I feel like somehow there's some kind of level of disability shaming going on there from what your friends are doing. I feel like you could claim kind of like some kind of harassment, or like you could start virtue signaling on Facebook about how everybody's like just calling
discriminatory.
You a colorblind. Yeah, mate.
Yeah. In 2020, you can make a case for that.
Mate, next time someone has a go at you on Facebook, you should just respond, "How dare you? I'm colorblind," and just see what happens. See where it goes from there.
Next time you got paid on your Instagram post.
Out of nowhere. The paid out on the disabled kid with color blindness.
just throw something obscure out to confuse the public.
And I'll tag a little emoji in it. And then I'll report
the emoji in your Instagram handle.
Ben Humphries, physiotherapist, colorblind.
Red, green, colorblind. Hang on a second, I'll take my jumper off.
I feel like that's probably why a lot of his color schemes are very like dark blue, grey. It's just all protection.
Not much creativity.
Right. Yeah. Well, speaking of shaming, lies, and obscurity, I'm going to pull a full 180 on the segue here, and we're going to talk about what we actually had planned to talk about today. I really enjoyed our start off.
That's good.
That was good. We need to do that more, I think. We need to pre-record what happens before we normally start. But today's topic of discussion is why I hate people. Not really, I love people. But today's topic of discussion is
That's why you're a chiropractor.
No,
because you hate people.
Yeah, I just fucking hate people. I'm just there, just cracking necks, right?
Cracking necks, cash checks.
Oh man, if only that was that simple. Like, I honestly think sometimes people think it's that simple. Like, you just qualify chiropractor, crack necks, cash checks.
Make bank, done.
My God,
retire.
I wish it was that simple. If it was, my 10 years, well, if we include uni in there, my better part of 13 years of fucking struggle, thousands upon thousands of hours of continuing development and like business setup and hours spent like promoting myself, apparently unnecessary. Just turn up, crack necks, cash checks.
Yeah.
Anyway, mind you,
it's the same though. Like, sorry to cut you off. When you run a business, right? The same thing. You look at a business and you have no fucking idea what happens behind the scenes until you start doing it yourself.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like if I told you everything that I have learned and everything that I go through in my head when I'm screening, whatever it may be, it's like, you know, you just wouldn't get it. Like, there's no point me even explaining. Like, if you just perceive it as cracking necks, and
it's like people only remember the intervention. They don't remember everything that got you to there, right?
Mm.
It's that classic thing. Was like, it's the one of you shared this. I'm sure it was probably you, Dan. You know the mechanic with the hammer thing, and he charges $10,000.
Yeah, the
like
$2 hammer and $9,998 bill.
Yeah, like for the engine is like, you know, it's like to knowing where to tap, right? This much, and that's what people don't see, right? It's that you know where to do and what to do and when, rather than actually what you do. Like when I'm speaking to all the students, I'm like the actual like, you know, whether it's spinal manipulation, mobilization, cut, whatever it is, in most cases is unimportant. Looks good, feels good, really helpful. It's knowing that was the thing to use, or that combination, or that you were the right place for this person. That's the actual mastery, right? Like, and the irony is, the better you get, the less time it takes you. And unfortunately, the more sometimes people think that they're not getting X, Y, or Z. Like, but it's the truth. Like, I've had, and no disrespect to my Yeah, I've had a grad work for me, and I've then looked after a few of his patients after he moved on, and people were just like that. Like, there's a world apart, not because anything was, and I was quicker, he was taking longer, which is normal, but there's a confidence in, like, you put your hands on someone and they just know straight away, you know what's going down, right? Yeah. And that's taken decades to build.
To go down.
People just like, oh, I know what's going on here. He knows what's going on here, or she knows what's going on here.
It's power in the hands, bro.
Let's just get it done. Whereas is this, and I was like, mate, if you think it's an issue, it's an issue. Just sort it out. Like, don't ask me. Don't ask the like. Don't tell the patient. Be like, how's that feel? Just if you know, you know. Like,
yeah, you will feel better after this because I fucking know it. All right. And if you get up and tell me you don't, you're fucking lying to me. Where's that colorblind screening test? So
you're a malingerer.
Fucking do it. I know you feel better.
Today is not harp on the patient day. Today is harping on professions day, because there seems to have been a bit of a trend in the last couple of weeks of various professions doing the proverbial circling of the wagon and trying to, not shooting in, because we do that a lot, but this time they're just trying to protect the sacred egg and shooting out, or the sacred goose, right? Like, lately I've seen the last week, I've seen one article, one video, two, I think another article, all just having, I think this time, no offense to your boys, they're Benny, physios shitting on my profession.
That's standard, bro.
And, like, don't get me wrong, there's definitely some people in my profession that deserve to be shat on. But just, if you're going to, what it really annoys me when any profession takes a swipe at another is when they use a low-hanging fruit. So, like, example, my profession, super easy. The guy who started it was a magnetic healer back in, like, the 1900s, right? Doesn't mean that we're still doing magnetic healing over here, right? Like,
2020.
That'll be like me going, back in the day in medicine, they used to do lobotomies and cut people's brains open and take part of it out to cure things, right? Like, you can't hold up a profession about what used to happen like 100 years ago. I'm sure, Dan, I'm sure osteo doesn't have the most fun beginnings either.
No, we don't walk around with flying bones down the street studying them anymore.
No.
Like old mate Andrew Taylor still.
Exactly, right? Like, you can't, and that's the thing, like, all I see, and this may just be me, but when I see a professional take a swipe at another professional, is someone that's just so insecure with their own abilities and what they do. It's the same as when I see a business that won't work with another business. I know that initial business is going under in the next 6 months because they have such a closed mindset and inability to work with people, and they think they've got to hold on to everyone rather than looking for the best outcome for people.
Yeah, that's a classic emotional response plus a scarcity mindset. Like, the reason why we do really well, the reason why you boys work really well is because of the collaboration that you have with other health professionals, because there's that many systems in the body that require different interventions. There's even same systems that we work on that still require 4 or 5 different ways to approach the problem. Yeah. So I think that you raise a good point, because there's traditional beef that exists quite heavily between allied health professionals. The main ones are, I'm a physio at the end of the day, but what I see most is actually physios throwing the most hate towards other professions. I think that, you boys still hear me?
Important thing ever too.
Yeah,
oh, he's back. Ben, we lost everything there.
That glitched so hard. I was like, what the heck? I just stopped talking.
Mate, you were timed perfectly too. You were about to lay down the most sage-like wisdom of all time. I was hoping you were going to come back and just be like, and that's everything you ever need to know, and then just turn your screen off.
And then just say, get out of here.
Try again, mate. Try again. Round 2.
I don't know why. I should be on full reception here. I was just saying that physios are usually... Yeah, there's a few towels around here. I need to upgrade, I think. What I was saying is that I find that physiotherapists are the ones who throw the most shade on other health professions, and they're the ones that claim to be the most heavily science-backed, research-backed, whatever, gold standard research sort of articles support, what they do. And basically that is what they hang their hat on the most. And then anything that falls outside of, what the typical science says or the most up-to-date research says is suddenly made irrelevant. But time after time, you will have reforming of information, reforming of data, new ideas, new concepts, new information that disproves, what they currently said. Sometimes you see the things go 180 on what was said 5 years ago to what is actually gold standard today. So for people who are hanging their hat on purely scientific data, especially when there's like low quality research, especially when there's like, other aspects involved, whether it be, monetary advantages that these papers are, aiming
biases.
at, what biases, whether the study has been run by, people who are basically to take advantage of the outcome of the study. There's too many variables at play to solely hang your hat on what is science and what is considered.
Yeah, and we have to remember that we're looking at human beings, right? It's very hard to just confine human beings and all that is humanity into a study. Come to that idea of generalizability, right? Like when you see something, how relevant is it to your population base? Like how many studies are on, uni age crew, or especially in America, college age athlete, because they can get them, right? They have access to them without really needing to pay them, because running studies is expensive. So how much of the stuff that we come out as absolute fact is then not relevant to the majority of patients, right?
I agree.
And so it's just, and this isn't shitting. I don't want to shitting, because I work with so many amazing professionals, but it's one of the things that frustrates me the most in this profession, or in allied health in general, is this still like us versus them mentality. And what I find for most of it, the person that has a preconceived idea that they're unwilling to change. Like I'm currently in the process of trying to find out who a certain physio that told a patient not to see me is, not because I want to go after them, but moreover, I want to actually offer to sit down and talk to them about what I do. Because I think the misconception is that, like we spoke about earlier, that we're just cracking necks and cashing checks over here, which is the opposite of what's going on. So I feel like if we could actually have these conversations, we could do a lot. This goes with a lot of the GPs I've seen. If we could just if they would allow me the time to sit down and talk to them, we would actually have great relationships. But unfortunately, there's so many barriers to them doing that. And most of them are just unwilling to ever have that discussion. And I'm going to say the most un-PC thing, and I said it to a laugh with a patient the other day, but I'm going to say it, and maybe we'll cut this bit out of the podcast. Who knows? But I honestly think if COVID could have just done us one favor, it would be to knock off like every physio, GP, surgeon-y educator over about maybe 55, 60. Just chop them out. Because I feel like those are the crew that are pushing their agenda to especially in the schools, not in private, but usually in the schools, those are the ones that are still being like, don't see an osteo, don't see a chiro, they're all bullshit. Don't do this, don't do that. If anything, and this is the most heinous thing I'm going to say today, but if anything, it would probably save lives. By getting rid of those people, we would probably save more lives and be in a better state for the future, from a cumulative effect of them not creating damage across the population.
Yeah, I agree. But that's it's very generally speaking, it's obviously there's a select few out there who aren't pushing that sort of thing. But the point is,
just so we're clear, I'm not setting out to murder like thousands of people here. It's just like one of those things where I'm like, I feel like, and I've had this said to me by so many people across our professions, that we are seeing change, right? We are seeing change. Like you look at, I think is it Growth FX or RX? Her name I'm forgetting. Growth RX?
Oh, what's her name?
I need to know because she needs a shout out because frankly she's doing a great job. I'm going to look it up. I'm looking it up. Are you in this, Benny? Oh, I'm getting a phone call. Hold on.
No,
too busy for that. Growth RX discussion group. Yeah, say it loud. Jade Scott. Jade Scott. So Jade has created Growth. Is Growth FX or RX?
RX.
I highly encourage you. Anyone who's a allied health practitioner to get around it. It is entirely promoted on discussion and collaboration across allied health professions in Australia, and they're doing fantastic work. And a lot of it's very comical, which I think is a great way to bring people together. I saw a bunch of crew I know the other day just doing some weird shit. Not inappropriate weird shit. But that's what we... Like these people are witch doctors. There's people being like, you should see this person, this person, this person. I see the same for osteo. I'm getting more referrals from GPs than I ever have. I'm getting more referrals from surgeons than I ever have. Like, it is changing, but we do just have these friggin' dinosaurs that need to be hit by an asteroid, right? Like,
beautiful. That was beautiful. Those words, bro.
Mate, it's such like what annoys, because listen, my business is doing great. Like, I've got no issues going on there. I don't need more people. But what annoys me the most about this is that the people who don't receive the care that could have helped them, could have got them moving again, could have got them living a better life and really changed their life so much for the better, that will stay incapacitated and afraid and literally will probably die young because somebody disempowered them with information that's completely false.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, bro. There's like what you're spitting is a lot of truth, and there's because at the end of the day we're humans, right? Like, we're not the most objective creatures. We choose what we want to consume in terms of information. We base our values, our opinions on usually other people's stuff, and it's until you go through that journey of self-discovery that you actually realize that most things that you have learnt, whether in tertiary education or you've been in like just in this bubble of your own profession, unfortunately you've become a product of the environment. So the best thing that happened to me was actually to leave working with other physios and to then start my own thing, because then it opened my eyes to every other health professional. You boys, obviously, sports doctors, doctors of Chinese medicine, naturopaths, etc., etc. Basically, it increased my awareness of what everyone A did, and B, it sort of enabled me to learn a shitload more from other people and just have different opinions, different perspectives, and I just learned a shitload more. And I can honestly say that the number one best thing that happened to me was actually leaving. But leaving the
nest, right?
Yeah, sorry, man. I was just reading those messages that you sent. Basically, yeah, I feel like it's up to my mouth as close as it can be. But yeah, basically,
what's happening for those playing at home is Ben gets very animated and uses his hands and keeps pulling his mic away from his mouth.
Like subconsciously. So I should let it just sit on the table. But yeah, to leave the nest, like to get away from my own kind, basically, like. Yeah. It's a great thing that, like the analogy of like leaving home, like you just have some freedom, and that's what it was like leaving other other physiotherapists. I had the freedom to think differently, to have like it became permissionless for me to then go and be like a gypsy physio and go learn all different techniques from all different people, to learn that the physiotherapy, like traditional sort of ways of practicing, it wasn't it. I'm like, that ain't it, chief. It's not the be all and end all. Like, if anything, I learnt that those ways of practicing were actually shit. And there was only like small value and relevance to what I actually did learn from traditional education and from other physios compared to what I learn now. I'm like, I don't learn a mentor from other physios. I learn a mentor from other health professionals.
Yeah, and that's 100% for me. Like the best move I ever made was stepping away in my continuing education from chiro into more strength and conditioning, into doing like now Dan's course, you know, into like at the moment I've got the Australian Strength and Conditioning Association conference on. I've been going through their stuff, like, and just spending time with other health professionals like yourselves. Like I actively have pursued that because I just got sick of a lot of what we had in our thing where it's like, hey, have you seen this new adjustment? And I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, if you think what you need is another like manipulation, like special manipulation, you're probably missing the point, right? Like, it's about like, this comes back to the same ideas that we are primarily paid for the evaluation, not the treatment. The treatment's the adjunct to it. And I'm always looking for ways that I can better my evaluation so I can pick up those 1% that other people miss or that I haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And because you know for a fact, like all of us, once you know enough about the intervention side of stuff, it's not that you need more, you just further develop your ability in that area. But a lot of things will need a slightly different way to use that intervention. If you're better in constantly improving the evaluation side of stuff, and that doesn't matter whether it's learning from chiro, physio, osteo, myo. I mean, it is a Mia sports doc, isn't Mia? Is Dr. PRP doc?
Basically, the GP has done like a fellowship, musculoskeletal medicine,
but
regenerative
like
medicine.
What I really liked when we spoke to him is he talks about how he spends times with allied health professionals to see better ways that they evaluate so he can better understand how to evaluate for his therapies, right? Like this is someone with an unbelievable amount of education that has every right to sit down and go, screw it.
Yeah.
And then he's going to go hang out with everyone. So it's very clear to me. Oof, look at that sun. Looking good there, Danny.
Mate, my back.
Well, if I was in Melbourne, I'd help you. I know a good chiro. But, you know, like is that your dog on a poster behind you?
No, but good. That's the dog. It's not mine.
Right. I was like, Jesus, you've got a famous dog here, guys. We're in the presence of greatness. For those watching the video podcast, Dan does have his dog traveling behind him in most of the video. So if you just want to come for the dog, there, it's an option.
There he is.
Hey, here's the chief.
The king.
Little douchund. But, you know, like I said, like, it's just that any way that you can improve your ability to understand what's going on is going to improve your practice. And sometimes it's your ability to understand when you should send to another practitioner. Yeah,
good point there is that the fucking main hurdle that most practitioners have is the chip on their shoulder and the ego they need to get over. Like the fact that, you know, my mate Amir was willing to go, hey, you know, he goes, I hang out with everyone from whether you're remedial massage therapists through to other sports doctors through to orthopedic surgeons. Basically, he said, I will go and hang out with anyone I have to and who I think is good at their job just to better and sharpen my own skills and to get a different perspective. Like, when do you hear that from a health professional who's studied for like 13 years, that they are willing to go and hang out with someone who's had 1 year worth of study and X amount of experience to go and learn from them? Like, man, that is like unheard of. So rare for someone who thinks, yeah, and it comes with the territory of being really good at your job, studying X amount of years. You get this, you know, ego that comes with it usually. And it's such a, you know, it's a very generalistic thing to say, but because it comes down to the person, how big their ego is, depending on their insecurities, et cetera. But basically it's about dropping the ego, becoming a bit more humble, even being open to the fact of learning different things, because what we all know in each of our professions is not the be all and end all. Like, as we said, the best thing for us was to leave our own professions and do that. So anyone out there who's listening, like, we do preach this message a lot, but even if you are students, you need to get around other health professionals who aren't of your own kind. Of course, master your own skills and become good at what you do. But the best thing for all of us was actually hanging out with others and learning more from other people. And like, that's been the difference for me in going back to what you said, Nathan, is about the screening, the assessment is actually the important thing. Knowing the intervention, the cupping, whatever it may be, is obviously the fancy clickbaity sort of content that I do push. But this is what I'm teaching with Rulan, our new girl Therese, is basically you need to know what the fucking problem is. All right. Otherwise your cupping and your needling, all that shit will make someone feel good because it does, right? Because it activates those mechanisms in the body. But if you don't know what you're dealing with and you don't know how to arrive to an accurate diagnosis, I said, then, you know, you can keep stringing the person along and you're just hoping that they get better. I said, here at Results Based, we don't do the wait and see approach. I said, I don't like that at all. Like, you waste people's time, people's money. People are in pain, right? So therefore they're currently suffering to that point. It's affecting their quality of life, their relationships, whatever it may be. I said, if you don't learn how to diagnose an injury properly, then you'll not be effective and efficient at treating it. Because I said we're not dealing with cars or products or laptops or whatever it may be. We're dealing with actual human beings, and as we all know, pain is very debilitating on people in all aspects of their life. So I said, you've got a very important role here to work out what's going on, find a solution to the problem, and refer onwards if necessary. You just do the most necessary and applicable intervention to their problem. Therefore, you're going to get your results fast. You're going to get more business. People are going to love you. You're going to be feeling fucking great because you're doing a good thing. So the better you get, the better you feel, because the more efficiently and the quicker you can get to the solution for the person. So I believe thoroughly in that. Yeah, the skill is in the assessment.
No, I agree.
100%.
All right. Anything to add from the man, the myth, who was on the road, the gypsy osteo?
I think 100% you guys nailed it on the head. Like, it's a lot less about the intervention and a lot more about the processes that you use to get there. I always say, like, a few of my mates have kind of asked about, you know, what do you think about cupping and needling and stuff like that? And I think any sort of monkey with a skill set can do cupping and needling and all that stuff. It's not really rocket science. It's like, if you have the anatomy and understanding of the body and what you're actually trying to do, then the actual application of it's obviously there's a skill level to it, but like doing cups and needles and stuff isn't really that challenging once you actually know what you're looking for. So I think, focusing more on the principles behind things. As you know, I always bang on about, Nate. You know, the principles of what you're trying to achieve, and then get really, really good at those processes and always kind of work backwards. And the actual end result of what you're doing is just trying to do something appropriate for that person and your comfort level, what's appropriate for them, and, you know, all the stuff we've talked about previously with, you know, any contraindications or any sort of scenario-based things that we want to adjust our protocols. So, I think, learning off other people is a great way to do that, because we all do similar techniques, and especially like with the question of who do you go see, physio, chiro, osteos, like us anyway as well. Like, you know, especially these days, everyone's going a lot more hybrid, so it's kind of hard to differentiate what's a physio, chiro, and osteo, because all of us are doing very, very similar modalities and similar techniques. So I think the biggest differentiating factor as a practitioner who wants to stand out is going to be your thought process and how you actually get to the conclusions that you're doing with your clients. So I think, learning off people like yourself and Ben and Mina and, you know, other people and personal trainers and SSC coaches, and understanding everyone's thought processes and principles from different backgrounds then helps you to then combine all that information and kind of hybridize it into a system that can streamline that process. And then the outcomes don't really matter. Like you said, Nate, like, you can go and learn a bunch of new adjustments, but at the end of the day, the adjustments doing the exact same thing. It's just a different way to get there.
Yeah, 100%.
Very good.
Well, I think that is time to park this plane this morning. I have to admit, we might have to make this we'll wait to see what we get on public feedback, but I think we should start with a little bit of the preamble of what happens off the mic as the starting of the podcast, because I think we got some good things. Because I think everyone today, one, they know they need to be investing in crypto, apparently. Two,
hit me up.
Jump on the videos. They need to jump on the video to see Frankie more often too.
Mate, everybody's keen for that. Well, that'll double our subscriber base from 3 to 6 just in one go.
There is a sausage dog.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everyone. As always, we really, really appreciate your support. So give us a 5-star rating wherever you're getting your podcasts. Make sure we hit the screenshot and share it, especially today. A reminder that I don't actually want to murder thousands of people, and I want everybody to have an awesome day and work collaboratively.
He's a good bloke, all right?
I just get mad, real mad.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Share it around. See you guys.
Awesome.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.